My love affair with Nevada got off to a rocky start. I was born and raised in California, and the climate and landscape were very different from Nevada. And at the time, I thought that I would always live in California. But circumstances found me in Nevada just before my senior year of high school, which in some cases ended up being a major strike against Nevada, which was not in any way the state's fault. But I was not too thrilled when I was first moved up here. And you might say that I had a lot of grudges against Nevada. I think my real love affair with the state began when I met the man who would become my husband. And we were both living and working in Carson City at the time, at the same Wendy's. And we married in Carson City before leaving for adventures because he was in the military. But we always maintained our Nevada residency, and we also always came home to visit our family members, not as often as we would have liked because of the costs. And we had kids, but Nevada was always our home base after we married. And absence makes the heart grow fonder. So after living in the Midwest for many years and experiencing all the extremes of weather out there, the blizzards and tornadoes and incredible humidity, and then living overseas in Japan, which was an exciting adventure, but it was also very humid with some weather extremes, we were happy to return to Nevada. We get our share of weather here, but the humidity is so much less. I'm finding that I really love the arid high desert climate here. I'm not always fond of the dust that I have to Swiffer off my walls, but dusting the house is a constant adventure because we do live in a very dusty area. There is not a lot of humidity here, which can be a problem, but it's also much more pleasant than dealing with the hot summers that we experienced in the Midwest and Japan, where the humidity made you feel like you stepped out into a shower or you're just being wrapped in a damp blanket. In the summer here, when you step outside, it's hot, but it's dry, and you don't immediately start feeling that sticky, disgusting, sweaty feeling. But that's not the only reason I like Nevada. I love the landscape. I love living in Carson City and being able to look to the west and see the Sierra Nevada mountains. Sunsets over those mountains are just absolutely gorgeous. We're just 30 short miles away from Lake Tahoe, which unfortunately we don't visit as often as we should. But I can look up at the mountains and know that just on the other side of the ridge, there is a beautiful sparkling lake that I can visit anytime I want, really. And then to the east, we have the whole Basin and Range system. And it's so much fun to drive out of Carson City and, bypass the cutoff that goes up to the Virginia Range of Virginia City, go through Dayton, and then you become part of the more remote parts of Nevada, especially if you're heading out of Carson City on Highway 50, which was dubbed the loneliest highway in America. It is quite the adventure, and there are long stretches that can be very lonely, but they're not lonely in a bad way. They're very open, and there are a variety of different landscapes that you pass through. There are places like Austin that is up on a higher elevation, and there are trees and a very windy road, and it can be quite the adventure to go up and through places like Austin. And then beyond that to Eureka and Ely. There are so many interesting little communities in Nevada. Elko, which is probably one of the larger ones, but the largest ones would be Reno, which is much less populated than the southern Nevada communities of Las Vegas and Henderson and Boulder City. Boulder City is probably smaller, but it's within the Clark County area that has probably the majority of Nevada's population. And people who only know Nevada for Las Vegas are really missing out because Las Vegas is not Nevada. Las Vegas is very different from probably most other places that I've ever been. Las Vegas is very much like a theme park for adults. They did try to make it more family friendly at one point, but I don't know that they were successful with that. And it can be fun to visit Las Vegas, but if you're coming to Nevada, I definitely recommend visiting the smaller communities. Come to Carson City. We have so much history here, and it's so beautiful. Our west side of town, the houses in that area are a large historic district because the houses are original to the 19th century. We still have a Capitol building that started operating as the seat of Nevada state government in 1871. And the governor and secretary of state and the executive staff of the governor all still work in that little building. Our legislative building came along later. The legislature used to meet in the Capitol building, but now they have their own separate building, which has recently become much bigger. And I don't know that it fits quite into the quaint vibe of Carson City, but I've seen a lot of changes since I've been here. I do remember the legislative building from the 1970s, the late 1970s, when it was still very new and it was much more open than it is now. And that whole Capitol complex area was much more open. But visiting Carson City, going to the state capitol, which in the summer months can be very hard to see because it's so surrounded by beautiful trees. There are trees from every county in Nevada. Nevada has 17 counties, and I think each of them donated a tree to the Capitol grounds or sponsored a tree because the trees will have plaques saying which county they are from. And it is a beautiful place to walk. It's where I used to walk while I was working at the Nevada State Library and Archives, which is just east of the Nevada State Capitol on the same block. And my work with Nevada state government also helped to really inspire my love for the state because I initially started working for the Nevada Commission on Tourism, which the idea was to promote Nevada. So I got to experience things that other people might not, in the hope of inspiring people to come and enjoy all the beauty that Nevada has to offer. My real intense love affair with Nevada began when I started working at the Nevada State Archives, and I started really getting enmeshed in the history of this state and everything that we went through from the time that we were part of Utah Territory until today. And Nevada has been through some very tough times. Most Nevadans are not native to the state. It's very rare to have a family, though there are some, but it is very rare to have a family where multiple generations have been born in Nevada. But it is a place where people have come to find new opportunities. There are so many different options of things to do here. Initially, it was mining. There's also agriculture. And then, of course, there was gaming and the divorce industry because Nevada was one of the few places that allowed quick, no-fault divorces. It was also a place where you could easily get married. So once you got divorced, you could get remarried pretty quickly. And there's just so many interesting stories related to the history of Nevada. We went through civil rights issues. We went through the boom and bust cycles of gaming, of divorce, of mining. All of those things have come and gone. The tourist industry was huge. And then, of course, we had national and international situations that caused people to be unable to travel and caused that economy to fall flat. But Nevada is always coming back. And now there's a lot more tech. Unfortunately, that comes in the form of data centers, but that's another issue altogether. Even despite all of the boom and bust cycles, people who come to Nevada many times may stay here because it's just something that gets under your skin, and it can be irritating like all the dust, but it can also be so beautiful when you're out in an open valley in a place like Great Basin National Park, which actually is on a mountain. Parts of it are on a mountain, But those are some of the clearest and darkest skies in the country where you can actually see the Milky Way. And it's not difficult to get out of the urban areas and experience the beauty of a night sky or the serenity of a wide open valley with nothing but coyotes and jackrabbits out there to keep you company. There are places in Nevada where you don't get cell phone reception, which is not always a terrible thing. Even though I didn't like living in such a rural part of Nevada when I first moved here, I sometimes wish I was back there. Even though I do love Carson City and I cannot imagine living anywhere else now, living out in those small communities did have a lot of advantages. Even though I was a new student to the high school, when I graduated, everybody in town gave me a graduation card, sometimes with $10 or $20 in it. And they didn't really know me, but they were very supportive of everybody in their community. And they wanted to send their seniors off with a good starting point. And that money added up, I think, to my first month's deposit on an apartment when I moved out. So I appreciate the people now. I didn't at the time. I was being a bratty teenager, but that sense of community really is strong here, especially in the more rural parts of Nevada. It can be difficult to be an outsider, even though many rural communities do appreciate tourists. But when you're moving to them, sometimes it takes a little while to be accepted. And that's not always a bad thing because you need to figure out your neighbors. You need to figure out what your community needs from you, and what you can do for your community. And I think many parts of Nevada are very community minded. So I love that about Nevada. I'm not saying that doesn't happen in other places, but my adult experiences have all been in this state, at least for the last 30 plus years now. And this state has become such a strong part of me and who I am that I cannot imagine living anywhere else at this point. And that's one reason why I have such a strong love affair with Nevada, because Nevada has given me so much. Nevada was where I met my husband. Nevada was where I raised my children. Nevada is where I learned who I am and what I wanted out of life. Nevada has allowed me to participate in experiences I never thought I would. And it's giving me so many opportunities that I really appreciate. So I could go on and on about Nevada, but I just thought today I would share how my love affair with Nevada got off to such a rocky start, but how it has become such a deeply ingrained part of me and who I am. And that's one of the reasons that I've been setting a lot of my books in Nevada, at least up to this point. I have Passion Restored, Haunt Season, and Battleborn Bride, which are all very Nevada-specific books. Some of them take place in places like Virginia City, where I really love visiting and feeling that old Comstock Lode vibe. And I like to joke that I was born in the Big Valley because my birthplace was Stockton, California, and that I moved to the Ponderosa because anyone who watched Bonanza will know that the Ponderosa butted up against Virginia City. As a matter of fact, if you see a map of the Ponderosa Ranch from Bonanza, you can see that it extends from Lake Tahoe all the way to Virginia City. So that's quite a big piece of property. But taking that feeling, the Western feeling that I grew up with, and being able to experience it in Virginia City has been just wonderful. It was also great to experience the Bonanza side of that at the Ponderosa Ranch when that still existed in Incline Village on the northeast shore of Lake Tahoe. Those were some fun times. And I got to experience them actually filming one of the Bonanza movies there. And I know there are places in California where you can easily experience movie filming on a regular basis, but having something like that in an environment where that was so familiar to me from growing up, it was extra special. So that just added to my love of this area. And I can't think that my love affair with Nevada is going to end at this point, because even though things are changing, times change, the legislative building may be a little bigger than I like these days, Carson City may be a little bigger than I like these days, but I can always easily get out into the more rural areas and enjoy a road trip along the Great Basin and Range, the loneliest highway, Highway 50, going from Carson City out to Ely to the Utah border, go down to Vegas if I feel like experiencing that, though I will say that Las Vegas is probably my least favorite part of Nevada, though I did have some fun adventures down there. I do like Boulder City, which is very close to Las Vegas, and visiting Hoover Dam is quite the experience. So there are pluses and minuses to most of Nevada, really, but the same is true of everywhere. So I hope if you have stopped and checked out this video, that you will check out the books that I've written that are set in Nevada. You can also check out my husband's book. He has a series called The Sheriff in Nevada, and there are currently 3 books in that series. It's about a female sheriff in a rural Nevada county who is dealing with rural vibes in a very male-dominated field. And I think they're good books. But if you want a little paranormal twist, you can check out my Restless Spirit series. Book 1 is completely set in Virginia City, though they do go to Reno a couple of times. The second book, Haunt Season, takes place in Reno, Virginia City, and Carson City before heading to Southern California. And other books, the future books in the series, are going to take off in other places. But that doesn't mean that Nevada won't figure prominently into the story somewhere. I also have a book coming out in October called Battleborn Bride, which is a real passion project for me because it was something that was inspired by my job at the Nevada State Archives, was really related to how strongly I felt an attachment to the founding of Nevada, the founding of statehood, the Nevada State Constitution, all those things. And I know I'm getting a little tongue-tied here because there are so many different things I could say about Nevada that I can't figure out off the top of my head which ones want to come out first. But Nevada, as you can tell, is very near and dear to me. So I wanted to share with you how, even though my love affair with Nevada got off to a rocky start, I am very much a Nevadan at heart these days. I am a Californian by birth, but Battleborn by choice, and I plan to remain that way. I do still like to visit my home state, and I do plan to probably delve more into the history of my home state over time. But for now, I just can't quit Nevada. And many of my books going forward will have at least some mention of the state, probably, because there's a lot more for me to explore and learn and share with other people. So I hope I am able to give you a little bit of inspiration to maybe develop a love of Nevada for yourself. I definitely think people should visit Nevada. It is, like I said, it can be remote, can be dusty and dry, but it can also be a lot of fun, and you never know what you might experience here. From, like I said, the Milky Way in the dark skies at night. You can ride a vintage railroad train in various parts of the state. Carson City has one, there's one in Ely, and there's one in Boulder City. You can visit places like the Nevada State Museum that is in the old historic Federal Mint building. You can visit small town casinos, which have a very interesting charm of their own. A lot of literary, lives have been connected to Nevada. Walter Van Tilburg Clark, maybe a recognizable name, who wrote The City of Trembling Leaves about Reno. A lot of movies have been filmed here, like The Misfits with Clark Gable and Marilyn Monroe. And not only literary and movie history, but there's so much other history that you can explore in Nevada. So I know I'm kind of going back to my days as somebody who worked for the Nevada Commission on Tourism because I'm very much in promoting my state's mode. But I do feel like Nevada is a wonderful place to experience. And it's not everybody's cup of tea. I understand that. But if you think you might be interested in visiting Nevada at some point, and you want to check out the fictional version of it, you can check out the books that we have available by going to our website at www.carsonhume.com. And you can find links to my books, my husband's books, and there will be more information coming soon about Battleborn Bride, which will be out in October. But in the meantime, I hope I've at least given you a little food for thought about my home state. And if you aren't interested in checking out Nevada, I hope it's given you the inspiration to check out your own home state. Learn a little bit more about your own local history. Check out books written by authors who live in your area, or books written by people who love your area. Check out movies that may have been filmed in your area. Just get to know your surroundings a little bit more. And maybe at some point you can share your love affair with wherever you live with other people as well. I thank you for joining me today. I know I got a little bit disjointed here, but I get very excited about Nevada, in case you couldn't tell. And as a quick update, just for anybody who does follow along with my videos, the Hawk Fire north of Reno is still burning. There is, I believe, 27% containment at this point. A lot of people are still evacuated. And fortunately, at this point in time, there only seem to be minor injuries, no fatalities. Some people did lose their homes, though. And my thoughts are going out to everybody affected by those fires, which includes my own family, of course, but things are improving on that front, and hopefully the winds stay low enough in the next few days that they can get that fire under control. But that's just a quick update about one of the downsides of living in a dry western area, because there have been a lot of western wildfires, but they don't just happen here. They can happen anywhere. So again, I thank you for joining me. Sorry to end on that downer note. I hope you'll follow along. I have been posting videos every day this year and will continue to do so until the new year, when who knows what I'll do after that. But my daily videos can be found by following along on my Life of a Writer 2026 playlist. I also have a variety of other playlists going that are mostly writing related. Occasionally they veer off into another adventure. But you can learn a lot more about me, my husband, Nevada, by going to our website at www.carsonhume.com and checking us out there. You can also find our links to other social media platforms there, where you can find more things that we are up to. So I thank you again for joining me. I'm Cassidy Carson, and this is The Life of a Writer. Take care.